I finally bought my dream house and invited my family to see it. Not one showed up, each making excuses. As I sat alone unpacking boxes, my dad texted, "We need to talk about the house." My response shocked them all. I finally bought my dream house, the home I'd sacrificed everything for, a monument to a decade of relentless struggle. And when I invited my family to celebrate, not a single one showed up. As I sat alone among unopened boxes, my phone buzzed with a text from my dad, a text that felt less like a message and more like a physical blow. "We need to talk about the house." But my response, it wasn't what anyone expected, and it rocked our family to its core. My name is Justine, and I'm 33 years old. For as long as I can remember, I dreamed of a place I could call my own. Growing up, home was a cramped two-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My parents, Thomas and Linda, worked themselves to the bone just to keep a roof over our heads. Mom waited tables in the mornings, then cleaned offices at night. Dad juggled construction and security gigs, chasing every available hour. My younger siblings, Natalie and Adam, shared the only other bedroom, and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 17. Money wasn't just tight, it was a constant, suffocating presence. I remember Mom meticulously stretching a single pound of ground beef across 3 meals, each time adding more beans, less meat. Dad, a shadow of worry etched into his face, tracked every kilowatt on the electric bill. "Electricity costs money we don't have," he'd sigh, flipping off a light switch with a gesture that spoke volumes about his unspoken fears. But despite the hardship, we had one ritual: Sunday drives. Once a month, Mom would coax Dad into borrowing his brother's car, and we'd cross town, cruising through the affluent neighborhoods. Those streets, lined with magnificent houses, utterly captivated me. I'd press my face against the window, picking out my favorites, imagining what life might be like inside. "Look at that one with the red door, Mom," I'd exclaim, pointing to a craftsman with a wide front porch and hanging flower baskets. Mom would smile, her eyes lighting up. "That one's gorgeous, Justine." All those windows would let in so much natural light. But Dad's voice, heavy with resignation, would cut through the magic. "People like us don't own houses like that," he'd say, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Best not to fill your head with impossible dreams." Those words weren't a discouragement to me. They were a challenge. By 15, I convinced a local diner owner to hire me. Every dollar I earned went into a lockbox under my pull-out bed. When my parents found out, they expected me to contribute to household expenses, and I did. But I still managed to squirrel away half of every paycheck for my future. This house, I told myself, wouldn't be an impossible dream. High school graduation brought a life-altering surprise. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Garner, called me into her office, barely containing her excitement. "Justine, have you checked your email?" she asked. I hadn't. Internet at home was another luxury we couldn't afford. When she showed me the scholarship notification on her computer, a full ride to State University, including housing, I burst into tears. I was going to be the first person in my family to attend college. Mom hugged me tight, whispering, "I always knew you were special." Dad nodded, a flash of pride quickly replaced by his usual practicality. "College is expensive, even with scholarships. Books, supplies, living expenses. Don't get too big for your boots." Natalie, then 14, seemed genuinely happy. Adam, only 12, was too young to grasp the significance. College tested me in ways I hadn't anticipated. The scholarship covered tuition and basic housing, but little else. I worked at the campus bookstore, waited tables on weekends. Sleep became a luxury. The cultural shift was even harder. My classmates spoke of European vacations, their parents doctors, lawyers, executives. I learned to navigate conversations carefully, sharing little about my background, keenly aware of the growing chasm between our experiences. When I called home, our conversations grew strained. Mom wanted every detail, living vicariously. Dad grilled me on costs and my jobs. Natalie and Adam grew distant. Our shared childhood no longer enough to bridge the gap. Graduation day arrived after 4 grueling years. I scanned the audience, desperately hoping to see my family. Only Mom was there, sitting alone in a dress I knew she'd saved months to purchase. "Where is everyone?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. "Your father picked up an extra shift," she explained, not meeting my eyes. Natalie has a project. Adam wasn't feeling well. I swallowed my disappointment. We took pictures, just the two of us, my hard-earned diploma between us. It was a pattern, I'd later realize, that would define our family dynamics. My achievements, however significant to me, often received minimal acknowledgement. Graduation was just the beginning. Armed with my marketing degree, I landed an entry-level position. The salary wasn't impressive, but the growth potential was real. I found a studio apartment, barely 400 square feet, but it was mine, and the rent allowed me to continue saving. My financial plan was meticulous: 50% for essentials, 30% for savings, specifically for a future home, and 20% for everything else. You need to live a little, my colleague Samantha would say, waving concert tickets. I always declined. You're only young once. She wasn't wrong, but Dad's words echoed in my mind. I wasn't just saving for a house. I was proving something. Professional growth came steadily. Promotions, salary increases, all poured into my house fund. Weekends and evenings, I built a side business managing social media for small businesses. My personal life took a back seat. Friends stopped inviting me out, knowing my answer. My apartment remained sparsely furnished with second-hand items. Vacations? Non-existent. I worked holidays, capitalizing on the need for social media coverage. 3 years in, I met Marcus. He worked 2 floors above me. His smile was bright, his patience unwavering. Initially, he supported my goals, but 6 months in, he suggested moving in together. We could get a nicer place, save on rent. You'd reach your house fund goal even faster. The logic was sound, but something held me back. Maybe it was fear of merging my carefully controlled financial world with someone else's, or losing my discipline. I declined. He accepted with grace. 3 years into our relationship, cracks began to show. Marcus started calling my saving habits an obsession. Arguments erupted over declined invitations to destination weddings and my reluctance to spend on experiences he valued. There's more to life than preparing for a future that might never come, he said during our final fight. You're missing everything that's happening right now. The breakup was painful but clarifying. I wasn't willing to compromise on my goal, not even for love. The house wasn't just property. It was tangible proof that people like us could achieve what my father thought impossible. My family's reactions to my success grew complicated. Mom was proud, but increasingly uncomfortable during her infrequent visits to my apartments. This neighborhood is so different from ours, she'd comment nervously. Dad refused to visit at all. Downtown is too fancy for me. Too many one-way streets. My relationship with my siblings shifted too. Adam, now working construction like Dad, called primarily when he needed money. My offers to help with budgeting were met with defensiveness. Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy, he snapped. Natalie, married young with 2 kids, showed little interest in my life. When I mentioned my growing house fund, she'd abruptly changed the subject. 8 years into my career, a revelation hit me. The CEO of a local startup casually mentioned buying her first investment property at 34. The perfect time to build wealth is when you have income, but before you have major family obligations, she'd said. I was 32. My timeline could be accelerated. My savings, excellent credit, and dual incomes put homeownership within reach 2 years earlier than planned. That evening, I contacted a mortgage broker. James, my broker, confirmed it. Years of disciplined saving had positioned me perfectly. My pre-approval amount exceeded my expectations. You've done the hard part already, he said, reviewing my impeccable credit and substantial down payment. Most first-time buyers struggle with the saving phase. You're in an enviable position. His words validated years of sacrifice. I found Kelly, a straight-talking realtor specializing in first-time buyers. I laid out my non-negotiables. Craftsman or colonial, minimum 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office, an established neighborhood with character. I've been visualizing this house for 15 years, I explained. I'll know it when I see it. House hunting was emotionally draining. 47 properties viewed over 3 months. Some were close, but had fatal flaws. By property 38, fatigue set in. Maybe I'm being too picky, I told Kelly. Perhaps I should adjust my expectations. The right house is worth waiting for, she assured me, especially for someone as patient and purposeful as you. Then, property 42 changed everything. Driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district, I spotted it before Kelly even slowed the car. A craftsman bungalow with a deep front porch, original woodwork, and a red door. My heart hammered against my ribs. "This looks promising," Kelly said, noting my expression. The interior exceeded my wildest expectations. Original hardwood floors, built-in bookshelves, a renovated kitchen that respected its character. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with angular ceilings and dormer windows. Standing in the master bedroom, sunlight streaming through mullion windows, I felt an unexpected wave of emotion. "This is it," I whispered, running my hand along the century-old doorframe. "This feels like coming home to a place I've never been before." Kelly nodded. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but it's fair. We need to move quickly." That night, I barely slept. By morning, my decision was made. We submitted an offer at asking price, with a personal letter to the owners, an older couple downsizing, explaining why their beloved home would be the perfect first home for a first-generation buyer. Competition was fierce, 3 other offers, one above asking. The waiting period was excruciating. 3 days later, my offer was accepted. My letter had touched them. They chose me despite a higher bid. The loan process brought unexpected complications. My self-employment income created documentation challenges, extending closing by 2 weeks. "This is normal," James reassured me. "Your finances are solid." Those 2 weeks felt endless, a competing buyer hovering. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, client contracts, a mountain of paperwork. Finally, approval came. The following Tuesday, I signed countless documents, initialed dozens of pages, and then the keys. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of a journey that began with those the floor and cried, tears of accomplishment, relief, and vindication. The daughter of renters who couldn't afford to leave lights on now owned a piece of the American dream. Taking photos of each room, I created a family group text, something I rarely did. "Just closed on my first house. Can't wait for you all to visit. Thinking of hosting a family dinner 2 weeks from Saturday, once I'm settled. Save the date." The responses trickled in. "Mom, congratulations." "Natalie, thumbs up." "Adam, silence." "Dad, houses like that have high maintenance costs. Hope you budgeted for repairs." The tepid reaction stung, but couldn't diminish my accomplishment. Standing in my new bedroom, watching the sunset paint the walls amber, I made a promise. This house would become a home filled with warmth and welcome, regardless of my family's ability to share in my joy. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. My meager apartment furnishings looked lost in the larger space. I found a second-hand dining table that could seat 8, perfect for the family dinner. With basic furnishings in place, I focused on preparing for their visit. This wasn't just showing off. It was an opportunity to reconnect, to bridge the growing distance. Perhaps seeing my success in person would help them understand my choices and sacrifices. The guest room for my parents received a new mattress. I prepped the other bedrooms. I bought groceries for everyone's favorites: Dad's pot roast, Mom's blueberry cobbler, Natalie's Caesar salad, Adam's buffalo chicken dip. The bill made me wince, but this celebration warranted the expense. Throughout the house, I added thoughtful touches: a photo wall in the hallway spanning decades, welcome baskets for each family member. For Mom, a gardening book. For Dad, a custom keychain with the house address. For Natalie's kids, books and coloring supplies. For Adam, a local brewery gift card. 1 week before the dinner, I sent formal invitations. Initial responses were positive. Mom called, asking what to bring. Natalie texted that Troy had arranged time off. Adam replied with a brief, "I'll be there," which still lifted my spirits. Dad remained silent, but Mom assured me they would drive together. 3 days before, the shift began. Natalie called. "Justine, I'm so sorry, but Emma has an ear infection. The pediatrician says she shouldn't travel. She suggested I come alone, but her excuse grew more complicated. We'll definitely come another weekend." Disappointment settled in. That evening, Adam texted, "Boss just scheduled me for Saturday. Someone called out, and I need the hours. Sorry, sis." Less believable, as Adam rarely picked up extra shifts. Still, challenging him would only create tension. Thursday brought Mom's call, the one I'd been dreading. "Your father's back is acting up something terrible," she began, her voice thick with apology. "He can barely make it from the bedroom to the kitchen." "I could come pick you up," I offered, desperation creeping into my voice. Or just you could come, and we could FaceTime Dad? You know he wouldn't want me traveling alone, she replied. Better to postpone. By Friday afternoon, my family dinner for 6 had dwindled to a party of 1. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by groceries, staring at the dining table set with new plates. The house that had felt so full of potential now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling each family member, offering alternative dates, different arrangements. Only Mom responded, reiterating Dad's health concerns. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, the sunshine mocking my solitude. The welcome basket sat untouched. I moved mechanically, putting away perishable groceries. By afternoon, I gave up, changing into jeans and a t-shirt. Settling on the living room floor, surrounded by still unpacked boxes, I began organizing books. The house, meant for laughter, remained quiet, save for work emails and social media notifications. Nothing from my family. The silence from them spoke volumes, particularly from Dad, who hadn't directly acknowledged my invitation. As evening approached, I ordered pizza, lacking the heart to cook. Sitting cross-legged among half-unpacked boxes, I scrolled through design websites, forcing myself to focus on future plans. That's when Dad's text finally arrived. We need to talk about the house. No congratulations, no apology. Just 7 words that somehow carried an ominous weight. My fingers hovered over the screen. Dad rarely texted, preferring Mom relay messages. This direct communication suggested significance I couldn't ignore. Despite the late hour, I called immediately. He answered on the second ring, his gruff hello lacking any warmth. Dad, I got your text. Is everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Your mother's upset, he began, without preamble. Been crying on and off since you sent those house pictures. Confusion washed over me. Crying? Why? Is she okay? No, Justine. She's not okay. His voice hardened. None of us are okay with this show you're putting on. Show? I echoed, genuinely bewildered. What are you talking about? This fancy house in that hoity-toity neighborhood. The dinner invitation, like you're some kind of hostess from those magazines your mother used to read. It's not you, Justine. At least not the you we raised. The accusation landed like a physical blow. I sank back against an unopened box, struggling to process his words. Dad, I've worked for this house for years. You know I saved every penny, worked multiple jobs. This isn't some show. It's the result of a decade of hard work. Hard work, he scoffed. Is that what you call it when you turn your back on your family? When you stop coming to Sunday dinners because you're too busy with your office job and side hustle? When you move to neighborhoods where your own father feels uncomfortable visiting? Each question increased in volume until he was nearly shouting. In the background, I could hear Mom's muffled voice urging him to calm down. I never turned my back on anyone. I protested, my own voice rising. I invited everyone here this weekend. I prepared rooms for each of you. Cooked all your favorite foods. Because we don't belong in a house like that, he exploded. Your mother took one look at those hardwood floors and fancy kitchen and knew she'd be afraid to touch anything. Adam said he felt sick seeing those pictures, knowing he'll never afford anything close to that on construction wages. Even Natalie felt it. Said you were showing off, making it clear how far you've moved beyond us. Tears sprang to my eyes. His words cut deeper than he could possibly know. That was never my intention, I whispered. I wanted to share this with you, not make anyone feel bad. Well, you failed, he stated flatly. Your mother thinks you're embarrassed by where you came from, that you bought this house to escape your roots, to escape us. That's not true, I whispered, though doubt began creeping in. Had I unconsciously chosen a neighborhood so different as a form of rejection? Isn't it? Dad continued. When was the last time you brought any of those work friends to meet us? When was the last time you talked about your family at that fancy office? Do your colleagues even know your father works construction and your mother cleans houses? The question struck nerves I didn't realize were exposed. I had compartmentalized my life. Not from shame, I told myself, but from a desire to be judged on my own merits. I'm proud of where I came from, I insisted, my voice breaking. Everything I've accomplished is because of what you and Mom taught me about work ethic and persistence. Save it, Dad interrupted. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions say you're building a life that doesn't include us. This house is just the final proof. Mom's voice grew louder in the background. When he returned, his tone had shifted from anger to something more resigned. Your mother wants me to tell you she loves you no matter what, he said mechanically. But I need to be straight with you, Justine. This changes things between us. You keep flaunting your success, making the rest of us feel small. There's going to be consequences for our relationship. Consequences? I repeated, disbelief coloring my tone. Are you actually threatening to cut me off because I bought a house? Because I succeeded? Call it what you want, he replied coldly. Just know that choices have consequences. Always have. The call ended abruptly, leaving me in stunned silence. The pizza congealed, forgotten. The emptiness of the house suddenly felt oppressive. Each room, a testament to what I had supposedly chosen over my family. I moved through the rooms in a daze, touching the walls, the door frames, the countertops that had brought me such joy just days earlier. Each beautiful feature now felt tainted by my father's accusations. The guest rooms mocked me with their emptiness, the welcome baskets pathetic in their optimism. In the master bedroom, I caught my reflection. Designer jeans and a casual top that cost more than my father likely spent on clothes in a year. When had that happened? When had I started spending $80 on shirts without blinking? I grew up watching my mother darn socks. Had success changed me in ways I hadn't recognized? Had I, in my determination to rise above financial struggle, inadvertently elevated myself away from the people who had shaped me? These questions circled like vultures as I sank onto the edge of my bed. The night stretched endlessly before me, a dark canvas for painful self-examination. Sleep evaded me completely as I replayed years of interactions, searching for the moment when advancement became alienation in my family's eyes. By dawn, my eyes were swollen from tears, but my mind had achieved a clarity that had been missing. I won't apologize for working hard and achieving goals. I won't pretend I haven't earned this to soothe feelings of inadequacy I never created or intended. Most importantly, I won't sell this house or downplay my accomplishments to maintain relationships that should be strengthened, not threatened, by my success. The door to this home will always be open to each of you whenever you're ready to walk through it without resentment or judgment. I've created spaces here specifically with you in mind. A guest room with the firm mattress Dad needs for his back. A backyard where Mom and I could garden together. Room for Natalie's kids to play. Local breweries I thought Adam might enjoy exploring with me. I'm not choosing this house over family. I'm choosing to believe we can grow together rather than grow apart. I'm choosing to believe that love isn't diminished by square footage or mortgage payments. This door will always be open to you, but I won't close it on my dreams. I hope someday you'll understand that my success honors, rather than rejects, everything you've given me. Love always, Justine. My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes. This message would either begin healing or deepen the rift. There would be no middle ground. Finally, I pressed send and set my phone aside, deliberately turning my attention to unpacking books onto the built-in shelves. The responses came in stages, each revealing something about my relationships. Mom called first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad about your accomplishments, she began. I'm proud of you, Justine. Always have been. It's just hard watching you create a life so different from what I could provide. You provided everything that matters, Mom, I replied gently. Love, values, strength. The rest is just stuff. Our conversation lasted nearly an hour, the first truly honest exchange we'd had in years. She admitted feeling intimidated by my career and confessed that Dad's reaction stemmed partly from his own sense of failure. He wanted so much more for us than what he could achieve, she explained. Seeing you accomplish what he couldn't, it's complicated for him. I acknowledged that, but emphasized, I need him to see that my success is his success, too. Everything I am began with you both. We ended with tentative plans for her to visit alone the following weekend. Just us girls, she suggested. Your father needs more time. Natalie texted next, her message unexpectedly vulnerable. I lied about Emma being sick. The truth is I was jealous and ashamed. Troy and I can barely afford our apartment rent, and seeing your beautiful house made me feel like a failure. I'm sorry. Your message made me cry. Can we start over? I called her immediately. Our conversation revealed years of competitive feelings I'd never recognized. As the older sister who seemingly did everything right, I represented a standard she felt she couldn't meet. I've never thought less of your choices, I assured her. You have beautiful children and a loving marriage. Those are successes that can't be measured in dollar signs or property deeds. We ended the call with plans for a proper visit once she'd worked through her complicated feelings. Adam maintained radio silence for 3 days before sending a terse text. Need time to process. Not ready to talk yet. It was the most honest communication we'd had in years, and I respected his boundary. Dad's response was the most painful. A week passed with no word. Then, a birthday card arrived in the mail containing a gift card to a home improvement store. No note accompanied it, but the choice of gift acknowledged my new homeowner status. A small, almost imperceptible step toward acceptance. The weeks that followed brought a mix of sadness and liberation. I missed the easy family relationships I'd once taken for granted, but there was also relief in no longer maintaining the fiction that everything was fine. The honest exchanges, however painful, felt like clearing stagnant air. I threw myself into making the house truly mine. Walls were painted, furniture arranged, window treatments installed. Each decision reflected my taste and needs, rather than what others might think, a freedom I hadn't previously allowed myself. When a colleague asked about my weekend plans, and I mentioned renovating the guest bathroom, she asked casually, "Will your family be visiting to see the improvements?" For the first time, I answered without evasion or sugarcoating. We're working through some complicated feelings about my move. Family dynamics are challenging sometimes, but we're figuring it out step by step. Her knowing nod and shared story of similar struggles made me realize how universal these experiences were. The pretense of perfect family harmony I'd maintained had only isolated me. This revelation sparked another important decision. I joined a first-generation PRG group, connecting with others navigating the complicated territory between their roots and their professionals. Network and achievements. Their stories of similar family tensions helped me understand I wasn't alone. 3 months after the failed family dinner, I hosted my first real gathering, not for family, but for friends and colleagues who had supported my journey. As glasses clinked and laughter filled rooms that had once echoed with emptiness, I felt the house transforming from a symbol of division to one of new beginnings. 6 months after moving in, my house finally felt like home. The living room walls, once bare, displayed local art and personal photographs. The kitchen had become my weekend sanctuary. The garden beds, dormant when I purchased the property, now burst with herbs and flowers. On a warm Saturday evening, my dining room hosted its first proper dinner party. 8 people gathered around the table that had sat empty that first weekend. To Justine, toasted Diane from next door, who not only restored this beautiful old house, but filled it with warmth and welcome. The words touched me deeply. This was exactly what I'd envisioned. Not just owning walls and floors, but creating a space where connections flourished. The path with my family remained more complicated, marked by tentative steps forward and occasional retreats. Natalie had been the first to truly breach the divide, visiting initially without her husband and children, almost secretively. "This is really beautiful, Justine," she'd admitted, running her hand along the original woodwork. "I can see why you fell in love with it." That first visit led to others, eventually including Troy and the children. Watching her 5-year-old son Jack race through the backyard, building fairy houses beneath the oak tree while her daughter Emma arranged pebbles along the garden path, healed something in both of us. "They love coming here," Natalie confessed. "Jack asked yesterday if we could move to a house with pretty windows like Auntie Justine's." Mom established a routine of visiting for coffee on Wednesday mornings when Dad was at his physical therapy. These visits began awkwardly, Mom perched at the edge of the sofa. Gradually, she relaxed, eventually helping me select curtains and suggesting placement for family photos. "I brought something for you," she said one Wednesday, pulling a small box from her purse. Inside lay Grandma's china teacup and saucer, a family heirloom. "It belongs here now with you." The gesture acknowledged something important. This house, despite its difference, was now part of our shared history. Adam maintained the most distance, responding sporadically to texts but declining invitations. Still, small shifts emerged. When he needed help creating a resume for a job application, he called, rather than asking Mom to relay the request. "The place looks nice in the background," he commented during our video call, noticing the built-in bookshelves. "You always did have an eye for that stuff." Coming from Adam, this qualified as effusive praise. Dad remained the final holdout. He had not stepped foot in my house, though Mom reported he asked questions about it after her visits. The birthday card with the home improvement store gift card had been followed by a Christmas card signed with just his name, no message. These small acknowledgments offered hope without resolution. Healing came from unexpected directions. I joined the neighborhood association, planting roots of a different kind. My neighbors shared similar stories of achievement, creating complicated ripples through family systems. My father didn't speak to me for 2 years after I got my doctorate, confided Maria, a professor 3 doors down. He had an 8th grade education and felt my degree was somehow a criticism of him. It took time, but eventually he came around. Sometimes people need space to adjust their vision of you. The most significant shift in my thinking came through therapy, a step I took 4 months after the failed family gathering. Weekly sessions helped me untangle complex emotions around success, family loyalty, and identity. Your achievement doesn't diminish anyone else's worth, my therapist emphasized. And their discomfort with your success isn't something you need to fix by becoming smaller. This perspective freed me from the guilt that had shadowed my accomplishments. I began celebrating milestones openly, without immediately calculating how these successes might be perceived by my family. 9 months after moving in, an unexpected text arrived from Dad. Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone handling that? The message contained no warmth, no personal connection, yet it represented something monumental. Concern for my home's maintenance, acknowledgement of its importance, and perhaps an oblique offering of practical knowledge. I got quotes, but haven't scheduled anyone yet. I replied carefully. Any recommendations? His response came surprisingly quickly. Those companies overcharge. I could take a look next weekend if you want. My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance. When I called Mom to confirm, she admitted Dad had been contemplating this offer for weeks, working up the courage to extend this olive branch in the only way he knew how. The following Saturday brought the surreal sight of my father's truck in my driveway. He emerged wearing work clothes, nodding curtly as if arriving for any ordinary job rather than his first visit to his daughter's home. Mom accompanied him, her nervous smile revealing the significance of this moment. Nice place, he offered gruffly, assessing the exterior with professional detachment. They don't build them like this anymore. Coming from Dad, this constituted high praise. I gave them the tour I'd planned 9 months earlier, watching Dad's eyes widen slightly at the craftsmanship of the original woodwork and Mom's fingers trail across the kitchen countertops she'd only seen in photographs. In the backyard, Dad examined the gutters while I held the ladder. The familiar routine of working alongside him, passing tools and following directions, bridged some of the distance between us. You did good, Justine, he said quietly as we packed up his tools. Not, I'm proud of you, or, I'm sorry, but an acknowledgement of my achievement that cost him something to give. I accepted it for the monumental concession it represented. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint my garden in golden light, I reflected on the complex journey of the past year. The house that had initially seemed to fracture my family connections now offered a different kind of foundation, one where authentic relationships could potentially be rebuilt brick by careful brick. I realized home wasn't just about the physical space or the financial achievement it represented. Home was creating a place where I could be my authentic self while keeping doors open to the people who shaped me, however complicated those relationships might be. The path forward wouldn't be simple or direct. Some wounds would take years to fully heal, if they ever did. But sitting there, watching shadows lengthen across my garden, I felt peace with the knowledge that true success includes honoring your journey without apologizing for how far you've traveled. Have you ever had to navigate the complicated emotions that can come with growing beyond your origins? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.